Today, I'll be talking about integrating Fidelity data into weekly action cycles to inform decision making. And I am with the St. Louis Language Immersion School. The first slide here is just more information about our school. So we are a pre-K through eighth grade school. We have about 510 students. And a little bit more context, we are located in St. Louis City, in a very urban part of downtown. We have a 5-story building. We have 3 dual language immersion programs in French, Spanish, and Chinese. And again, that's pre-K to eighth grade. Our population is 83% free and reduced lunch. And we currently have staff, due to our language immersion environments, we have staff from 20 countries across 5 continents. So very diverse staff, very diverse student body, and we are a 1 building public charter school district. So we're our own district. I'm the superintendent. I work directly with the board, but all of our building level team is here on site. So principal, assistant principals, instructional coaches. So we all collaborate together to make sure that PBIS is working in our school. So I'm bringing the Fidelity data into weekly action planning and decision making because this is something that we've been working on for the past 2 years. And we have got this down to a weekly cycle where we collect universal data and we're able to move the needle on our school-wide systems by doing fidelity checks once a week and then action planning using that data on a weekly basis. So this has been extremely effective for us. Again, we're a 1 building district, so I can have a pulse on this in my position on a weekly basis, which is wonderful. But our building level team also does this. So this could be done in any school building. It doesn't have to be a 1 building district for this to be successful. So I'll tell you a little bit about how it works. We call ourselves SLIS for short, so St. Louis Language Immersion School, SLIS. So we take the following steps on a weekly basis. On Mondays and Tuesdays, our instructional team collects universal data in every classroom in the school. So for us, that's about 35 classrooms within our building. And this is a team of 4 people who go collect data, and we use a Google form. We collect data on social and emotional learning, on tier 1 environments, and especially on our dual language practices. You can imagine that with a staff from 20 countries, we have all different kinds of backgrounds and experiences and culture coming to the table. And so it's really important that we make things systematic and try to be as focused as possible on universals and aligning our staff. Our teachers, after they get their classroom walkthrough on Monday or Tuesday, they get immediate written feedback on their classroom in a paper form. So whoever does the walkthrough, it's like a checklist. Here's what I saw, here's what I didn't, glow and a grow. And then the teacher gets that in their hands. So they know immediately what was viewed and what the outcome was. We finalize all that data Tuesday afternoon. We have a person on our team who's a research fellow right now, but plays a really important role in compiling the data and making it digestible for the team. We have some templates for that, and we use it Wednesday morning. We have a weekly Wednesday morning meeting. I attend the meeting, and our instructional team, so our principal, our assistant principals, our instructional coaches, and our research fellow who helps with data all sit in that meeting. We use a weekly protocol, so it's a standing agenda. It never changes. And we review the data, we identify trends, and we discuss our current reality. And then we collaboratively work together to identify next steps. That's all built into a weekly standing agenda. I think one of the key components that we have been using for the past year or so is a Kanban board, and I linked what a Kanban board is to this slide, but you could also just Google it. But this is where administrators who supervise staff who are running the classrooms, they identify personal steps to move the needle before the end of the week. So they say, okay, based on this data, my action plan is to meet with the 4th grade team and make sure that they're really up to speed on how to use their word walls in the dual language model. So they actually put that on the Kanban board as a task they want to complete, and they can move it to completion on that board. And we actually watch them move it to completion and check in on that at the following meeting. So there's accountability for actions from the administrators, or maybe I'm gonna follow up with this one particular teacher in our one-on-ones about their universal practices for how we use the bathroom in our school. And then we also have our instructional coaches do their tasks on the Kanban board. So theirs are more like, I'm going to follow up with one particular teacher on their use of the lesson plan cycle, or I'm going to, during PLCs tomorrow, which we intentionally have on Thursdays after these meetings, I'm going to remind everybody of this, this, and this. So it really puts everything into lockstep on a weekly cycle. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, these action steps that go into the Kanban board actually happen. So that happens, as I mentioned, in one-on-one meetings with teachers, in our professional learning communities, which are on Thursdays, and our staff meetings are on Thursdays too. So everything is lined up for staff to get pretty immediate feedback outside of just that paper form, what needs to happen next. And then on Sundays, that's when our principal sends her building level newsletter to our team, and we report how we're doing. So we report universally what our data look like across the building in all these key areas, which the staff know that we're measuring. And then come Monday, we do it again. So we do this every week. Frequently on Wednesdays, we will have the conversation about if we're using the right measures, if we need to add something, if we need to increase rigor in some area and things like that. So we do modify what we're looking for based on the needs of the school. So what's the value? The value is this really moves the needle on a weekly basis. So it's all integrated, and it anchors. It sort of is the anchor for all the systems we have across our school. So we're using the universal walkthrough practices, PBIS, of course, in our tiered systems, dual language, social and emotional learning. We're using team data analysis, teacher feedback, PLCs, one-on-one meetings. They all align and help us promote growth in all of our classrooms, and then also as a school as a whole. And so we intentionally integrated all these things, and this is how we step towards our goals and our school improvement plan. So we have a SMART goal for dual language, but these smaller pieces that we're looking for each week help us build up to the SMART goal, which is the annual goal. Here's some information about the impact. So this year, our weekly system helped us achieve the following in 120 days. We moved our documented incident report follow-up from about 50% to 100%. So we were like, we want follow-up on every incident report. We want a written report by an administrator that says what happened next. And we raised that from 50 to 100. We changed our implementation of our universal bathroom procedures and just fidelity to those practices from 71 to 97, and our goal was 95. We moved our dual language lesson plan execution fidelity from about 23%. We had a lot of new staff and we were really struggling with universalizing those practices to 97, and our goal was 90. And then our dual language model includes a pretty significant writing component in English in the target language, and we increased that from about 40% to about 90% with a goal of 90. That was in just 4 months. So ultimately, strong fidelity to systems is now clearly in place, and we measure it really consistently. So keeping those practices in place helps us support our staff, and it contributes to stronger and more supportive classroom environments for students in our school. And so we did our self-assessment, or I did a self-assessment on us for this particular standard in the TFI. We would rate ourselves a 4 because we do this so frequently and with really strong integration of multiple systems. That said, if you look at all the other areas on the TFI, we have a lot of other things we're working on. So we aren't flying high on every single standard by any means. But things we are going to keep working on as a school, and especially as we plan for next year, are our responses to inappropriate behavior, engagement across stakeholder groups, and school-wide professional development and coaching. So strengthening those structures in our school is we keep growing in those areas, and we're looking forward to goal setting there next year. And then our next steps as we plan for next year include the self-assessment, which we're going to do next month in May. So we'll do the whole TFI self-assessment. And then we're going to use that to help develop SMART goals for next school year and beyond. And then some recommendations for schools who are just getting started. There's a lot of things that there are pieces of this that you could use. You don't have to use all of it at once. It's quite a number of systems that come together in one weekly cycle. But I would identify first if a quarterly, monthly, or weekly system makes sense for your building. And I would do it at the building level first. Then from there, determine who does what on your team, who's going to facilitate your recurring meeting, who's going to collect the data, who's going to provide follow-up with teachers and staff, whose roles will that be within your building and on your team. Once you have that answered and you know what you want to find out, you've got to have a system to collect data. We use a lot of Google Forms in our school and Google Sheets. So we enter raw data into Google Sheets, and for classroom walkthroughs, we have a form that we modify based on what we want to see. Then use a standing agenda for data review on a recurring basis. Ours is super simple. It is, what are the trends that we're seeing? What are the positive and bright spots, and where are the areas we need to grow? We look at that universally, and we also speak about individual classrooms to help us with action planning. I highly recommend a Kanban board for your team members to track their action items, and you can see those through to completion. And then an important component, of course, is giving feedback to the staff. So what are your procedures for giving individual teachers more information about what they might need to do? And then how are we doing universally? Is the needle moving? That's important to report back to on a routine basis. And if you already have things in place and you're getting better, we're learning that this kind of system can accommodate a lot of types of data. So there may be other growth areas or problems of practice that you're seeing. You could work with your team to determine how to integrate them into a weekly cycle so that you can see improvement over time, or a monthly cycle or a quarterly cycle. And so currently in our school, we're working on some of our like hall pass procedures and bathroom procedures right now, because that's an area that we've noticed looking at our universal data we want to keep improving in. And that concludes the presentation part for today, and I'd be happy to answer questions.